Welcome to our magical journal. And this week, what are we doing this week?
Civil War.
We are doing Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And so our history sentence is about Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War. And so what is the quote, Addison?
The quote this week, it is well that
war
is so terrible, or we would grow too
fond of
it.
That was, who said that?
Robert E. Lee.
Robert E. Lee. And Robert E. Lee basically is saying it's all well that war is terrible, because if it wasn't terrible, we'd like it. So what he was saying is,
war isn't really a good thing.
War isn't a good thing, and it is good that war isn't a good thing, because we would like it, and that's not good. We don't want war. Mm-hmm. I don't want war.
I don't want to lose our home either.
Yeah.
I don't want to be killed.
I know. So, Ashlyn's going to go first. Why don't you tell us your topic first before you go into...
My topic is women in the Civil War.
Mm-hmm. So, women during the Civil War. Tell us a little bit about what women did during the Civil War.
Okay, so most of them were nurses.
Nurses.
But at first, boys were the ones that were nurses.
Right. Men were... Yep.
Girls.
Men... Yep. And that's a big thing that changed in the Civil War, right?
Yeah. And what was a nurse that was very good at taking care of the
Clara Barton.
Barton.
Yes, tell us about Clara Barton.
She had a wagon, and she always carried it around. Then she stopped to take care of the people,
the soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Did the soldiers recover fast or slow whenever she took care of them?
Fast.
They recovered really fast and were able to go back to battle, right?
Mm-hmm. And some girls, they cut off their hair.
Mm-hmm.
And they put on boy clothing, and they became soldiers. They became soldiers, and they fought in the war.
How many did they estimate? We don't know how many, but how many did they estimate enlisted women as soldiers?
1,000.
1,000. So they're estimating 1,000 soldiers during the Civil War were women, and unknown to anybody. Now, what about? So all of this, women would take care of farms, and they would do all kinds of things that men usually did during the lifetime. So what did this spark? What did this progress? What did this prove? What did this show? Women could what?
Do everything.
They could. They were capable. Men did.
Men do.
So what did it push for? The right to what?
Voting.
And what's that called? What's that movement called? Suffrage movement. Yes. Very good. It's technology during the Civil War. I'm just going to briefly go over it and show you pictures. So the Civil War was actually known as the first modern war. There were advances in weapons such as rifles, which provided better distance range and easier loading than the muskets before. There was also ironclad ships, submarines, which were used during the Civil War, launched by the Union Navy. I believe this is the USS Kenosha on the screen. They also, in the submarines, they used all kinds of different technology, including fins that would stabilize the submarine while it was in the water. Also, communication developed. There was the development of the telegraph. Lincoln is actually the first president to communicate directly with his men on the battlefield, and was able to hold meetings and various things due to being able to directly communicate with the with his army. Now, the Confederate Army did not have this technology, so that kind of left them at a disadvantage. Newspapers and magazines were more readily available because of the advances in the printing press, and also the affordability of it. It became more affordable to be able to do this. So that media technology advancement made the war even more real to the people that were on, the outside of it, weren't soldiers. Photography also advanced during this era. This war was the first to be documented with photographs. They were mostly portraits, not really action shots, because of the developmental period that it took, the length of time it took to develop these shots. Also, locomotives, the transportation, developed further to be able to transport goods and various things to and from. So, let's see, hot air balloons during this period were developed. Spies used these to be able to spy on the other side, and also transport things back and forth more secretively than the locomotives. Also, lastly, prosthetics were advanced because you had soldiers losing limbs due to war. And so inventors got together and invented different prosthetics to be able to allow these veterans of Civil War to walk or to use their arms in various things. And so that just allowed them to, also that was a mark, prosthetics were a mark of veterans, because mostly people that had the prosthetics were veterans of the Civil War. So it kind of became a symbol of respect. Also, there was, I believe, development of veteran programs, be able to provide these prosthetics free of charge to the veterans of the Civil War. So there wasn't any charge of these prosthetics. All right, Addison, you go next. What did you do?
Last. I go last.
What did you do?
I did Abraham Lincoln.
You did Abraham Lincoln. Tell us about it. You did what specifically of Abraham Lincoln? The Emancipation Proclamation. Okay, so tell us about it.
He believed in reason, Abraham Lincoln.
He believed in reason at first, and then kind of lost faith in reason, didn't he?
No one was certain Lincoln and the
would issue the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, what is the Emancipation Proclamation? That's a big word.
To free the slaves
in rebel states. So he kind of used it as the thread, and he said, if the Civil War does not end, I'm going to free the slaves in those states. Now, what about the northern states, the Union states? Was he going to free the slaves in those states? No. So it was very contradictory. But what did it encourage after it was issued? It encouraged the slaves that were freed to what? Enlist in
war.
Resulting in what?
In new successes.
Victory, which ended the war. So this proclamation actually led to the end of the Civil War, because you had people that were otherwise not involved in the war. They became freshly involved in the war. And so you had these worn out soldiers that had been fighting for a while, and you had fresh soldiers that enlisted in the war and brought new victory and brought an end to it. So that was only one thing that Abraham Lincoln did that we learned. I'm sure we will do more of Abraham Lincoln. What did you learn this week? Tell us in the comments. Bye!